Welcome back to Political Matrix News. We got Scott and Mike here, and I guess the Feds are cutting the interest rate again. Another quarter point. What do y'all think about that?
Well, the Fed already told us that they were going to cut the interest rates. They said 3 times this year is their target, and frankly,
Right
I
on
think they'd be
twice.
stupid. I think they'd be stupid not to do it 4 times. But
Well, this is their second
never
time,
underestimate them.
Well, yeah, but
they're behind
actually,
schedule.
yeah, but here's the thing. When they announced the 0.25% cut today, they said they would probably not have any further reductions this year. This cut that occurred today was the second cut of 2025. We went 8 months without one. The first cut didn't happen until September. And then we had another quarter-point cut today. The vote was 10-2. And what's interesting about that 10-2 vote is that the two dissenting votes, one of them dissented because he didn't want to see any cut, and the other dissent was because he wanted to see a half-point cut, not a quarter-point cut.
Wow.
So kind of interesting on that. The one thing that is concerning is the Fed's rationale for doing it. Their announced reason is they're very concerned about the labor market, and probably not without foundation for believing that. The Fed's primary goal has been to keep inflation around 2%, but they are kind of backing away from inflation being their number one concern to the labor market being their number one concern. And what's real interesting about today's cut is that they kind of made that cut blind. The government shutdown means that we aren't releasing unemployment data. The labor data is not being released, which I find just abhorrent. And if we want to talk about the government shutdown a little bit later, we can. I think it's disgusting for a number of reasons, and not for the two political reasons that the two parties are fighting about. I have my own problem with what's going on. But I think the low interest rate, or at least the cut to the interest rate, 3.75 to 4 is where they cut it to. The concern that I have is the reason behind it. If there's really all this concern about the labor market and the overall health of the American economy, that interest rate cut may not be the good news that a lot of people were hoping for.
Well, I'll tell you, in my opinion and in my experience, frankly, that what you're describing there, the way that they're characterizing this, is really more, is a political statement and not a technical financial statement. They need it to not be about the economy getting an economic driver, because the economics are a lot easier to measure, and they kind of get themselves have the last couple of times for the last year or so, they've been kind of bogged down in this narrative about concerns about inflation in the economy. Well, with inflation gone, then now they have to find another justification for their conservativeness, and it really sounds a lot more political than it does actual policy.
Well, they're saying, I mean, I was reading an article a couple of days ago. They're saying that inflation's up to 4%. And so I don't really know exactly where anybody's grabbing that data from. Because like you said, I mean, the data's not out there to grab.
The data's been going down. And look, don't think that the government shutdown means that they can't have any data and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff that they have that they're just not publicizing.
Yeah.
For example, yesterday I was my monthly meeting with HUD about our project. So the bank called us and told us, well, because of the government shutdown, we're not going to have an inspector, so we're going to just have you meet with the architect, and we'll just go off of that, because we don't actually have government loans. We have government loan guarantees. So it's not actually HUD money coming out; it's the bank's money that that HUD's simply guaranteeing for the project, and lo and behold, on Monday I had the meeting with the architect, because if the HUD inspector's not coming, what do we need to wait till Tuesday to have the meeting for? And then yesterday I'm in the middle of another meeting, and who walks in but the HUD inspector? And I said, and I'm like, Harry, what are you doing here? I thought the government was shut down. He said, oh, they don't shut me down. I get to go all the time.
So nobody knows.
I'm curious, Scott, is he considered essential, or did he just come to work on his own volition?
I don't know what how he's all set up, but I mean, the fact is he's the official inspector for this area, and he's working just as hard as he ever was. So
well, good for him.
Yeah, I mean, for real. So, how much of this government is really shut down? I don't know. You know,
I do know,
and frankly, you probably don't know.
exactly. I mean, I do know they're talking about SNAP ending here for a lot of the low income families that really need it. And the Democrats are not, they just keep on saying, you guys just need to give us more free money. Y'all just need to give us more free money. I'm like, no. I mean, yes, I understand SNAP is important. I get it. I got a lot of friends who are in low income who are on food stamps and everything. I understand the needs and the necessity and everything else to it. However, the Democrats have got to quit extorting everybody off this whole crap here about their needs in DC. They just need to go ahead and realize we're not funding illegals for healthcare and we're not giving healthcare subsidies to people who do not deserve them anymore because COVID is over. The whole pandemic is over. It's
Yeah,
time to
and
get back on the playing field.
here's the thing on the SNAP, Greg, and Republicans, they're feckless in their argument. They could not argue their way out of a wet paper bag. It's really disgusting because the argument is so
Narrow it
clear.
down.
Right now, when people are arguing and crying and complaining about SNAP benefits running out, the answer should not be, well, the Democrats, the answer should be all but 3 Republicans in the House voted to fund SNAP. All but 2 Democrats in the House voted not to, and not a single Democrat in the Senate has because they're filibustering the vote for SNAP. The Republicans would fund SNAP today. It is the
Exactly.
Democrats who are stopping it. And that's
Exactly.
a factual statement because
It is.
what has passed the House and is currently stalled in the Senate through a Democrat filibuster is the continuing resolution. It's not even a budget. It was a continuing resolution that would fund the government exactly the same way it was funded under Joe Biden's signature. And so
Exactly.
nobody on the Republican side is trying to cut SNAP, at least not
No.
in this particular fight. I mean, obviously, we'd love to see SNAP be reduced, but as
Or
it pertains to
fixed.
the shutdown, the Republicans did vote to fund SNAP. It's the Democrats who voted not to. So why are the
Exactly.
Republicans getting blamed? It's
No, it
because the
shouldn't be blamed at
Republicans
all.
always lose the PR battle.
Yeah, yeah.
You're exactly right on that. We cannot win a PR battle one bit at all. And the Democrats are trying to play the victim game here, like, oh, please just, I mean, it's like Mandani. I mean, they just want free money. I mean, Mandani in New York, the guy running for mayor, had his here big speech about everything free healthcare, free buses, actually, free taxis, free subway, free everything.
Well, I get that, Greg.
That's not a real world.
Well, no, I get that, but that's not the argument vis-a-vis the shutdown. The argument vis-a-vis the shutdown is not, these people want free money. The argument vis-a-vis the shutdown is the Republicans did fund to pay for the SNAP benefits. It's the Democrats who have prevented it. That is the only thing any Republican should be saying when SNAP is brought up in a news conference or any kind of constituent inquiry or anything like that. It should focus solely on the vote. Because the facts, the indisputable, provable facts, are that the Democrats are the ones standing in the way. They voted against it in the House, all but 3, and they will not allow a vote in the Senate. If they would allow a vote in the Senate to continue funding exactly as it had been prior to October 1st, the SNAP benefits would be paid out no problem. So let's get these people who are crying and complain about it to know what the facts are. And let's also get these people who are on the SNAP benefits, which, by the way, is 42 million Americans. That's another argument. How are we so bad that 13% of Americans are on food stamps? But even the people who are on the SNAP program, who are going to lose out when this government doesn't fund it by November 1st, I guess, right? It's only a few days away. Those people need to know that it's not the Republicans, who most of them arguably already hate because they're the class of the rich, right? And if you're on SNAP, you're probably not rich. Those SNAP recipients need to be educated that it is the Democrats who are preventing this. It's not the Republicans. So you blindly vote for the Democrats. They're the ones who are going to keep you from getting your SNAP benefit. We'll save the argument of whether you should get SNAP for another day. For now, the fact is the Democrats are the only people standing in the way of SNAP benefits going to the needy on November 1st.
Yeah, I've thought that was funny the whole time. Every time I'm listening to them, they're like, "Oh my God, the Republicans have this all locked up. They're in control of everything. If only there was something we could do to save these SNAP benefits." Well, you just get like 5 or 6 of your buddies and go vote for this continuing resolution, and you save SNAP. I mean,
Exactly.
it's not
Exactly.
rocket science. It's not rocket science unless you're a Democrat.
Well, they can't count to 60.
Well,
That's a
but the
Apparently
problem.
not.
problem is no, but the problem is the Republicans aren't saying that either.
No,
No,
they're
I mean,
not.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, they're
look,
not.
I'm not
They
the
need to hire
smartest guy
us.
on the planet, but if I can put it that concisely, why can't the
Hmm.
PR people for the Republicans put it that concisely? It's true.
Oh,
Because you're fundraising off of it.
because they're fundraising. I was literally the
Well,
words about coming out of my mouth.
I know. And
Frankly,
Scott,
the
you all the time
Republicans.
talk about these milking issues that they don't really want to solve it. They just want to fundraise. And if that's the case, and I know that it is largely, but if that's the case, shame on both parties for doing it. Because
Absolutely,
in the
shame on the
end,
whole lot.
right, because in the end, while we do have our political alliances, we also have a country to run, and we need to put the country above party.
I've relentlessly said for decades, if you can't understand what's going on, it's probably because they're not telling you everything. And the thing they're not telling you is we're making money hand over fist with this.
Yes, they are. And they're still getting paid.
And they're still getting paid.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you something interesting about the SNAP benefits. I'm surprised that there aren't, maybe there are, it just hasn't been publicized, but I'm surprised there's not a whole lot of lobbyists out of Bentonville, Arkansas, meeting with members of Congress.
Yeah.
Because I
Right.
read an astonishing statistic today, and I think I read it on CNBC. So, I mean, it's not nutcasenews.com, right? This is a legitimate, or semi-legitimate anyway, news source, that apparently 24% of SNAP benefits are redeemed at Walmart.
I have
Isn't that
no
amazing?
doubt.
Really.
So the corporation that's going to suffer the most is going to be Walmart, apparently. You'd think they'd be using their lobbying power to get SNAP benefits reinstated with reopening the government.
Well, they do have
Indeed.
commercials going on over here in this part of Florida that they're talking about, the shelves are going empty because SNAP benefits are going to be cut. And they're talking about the shelves of Walmart and I was like, I don't really understand the correlation between SNAP being
Actually,
cut.
no, that could make
and-
sense. That could make sense, actually. If the planners at Walmart do not believe that the government will reopen and that SNAP will be funded, they don't want a bunch of food on the shelves that's either one, perishable, or two, even
That's
if it's
true.
not perishable, they're still going to be paying to put it on the shelves. It's not going to move quickly. You want to turn those groceries in a hurry. That's how you make money.
That's true.
And
Yeah.
so if they don't anticipate the SNAP funding being reinstated, I kind of understand why they wouldn't order to stock their shelves fully. Makes sense to me.
Yeah. I haven't
Interesting.
ran yeah, that's a pretty interesting point. I haven't ran a grocery store, so I don't really know the ups and downs of that side. But yeah, you're right. It does make sense that whenever they do organize everything for the shelves and the aisles and everything else, they base it upon, previous purchases. And those purchases, like you said, 24% are SNAP purchases, and that's a big chunk out of the order. That's not going to be guaranteed to be bought.
Yeah, so let me restate it because you said it inaccurately. It's
Okay.
not that 24% of Walmart's sales are SNAP. It's that 24% of SNAP benefits are redeemed at
okay.
Walmart.
Okay.
But that's still an astonishing
It's still a
number.
big chunk. Yeah.
My God, yeah.
But yeah,
And it's
I mean,
billions. It's billions and billions of dollars. This emergency fund they keep talking about it's got millions and millions of dollars in it. We have to use that. Well, the problem is that to keep the SNAP program alive during the shutdown, they don't need millions of dollars. They need billions of dollars.
Right. And there are some states that are stepping in. There are states that have their own state level funding. There are
Yeah.
certain nonprofits and food banks that are stepping up, and people are doing what they're doing. But without question, come November 1st, there's going to be some hungry people in America, and it's going to be poor people in America who are hungry. And it is them that need to know the party that made them hungry, at least as it pertains to November 1st, is the Democrats, because they're
Exactly.
the ones that will not approve a vote to even take place in the United States Senate that would pass. We know it would pass. There's already a majority that would vote for it, but they can't bring it to the floor for a vote because of the Democrat filibuster.
And so the filibuster, I mean, what are they filibustering specifically about?
Well, they're just refusing to allow it to come to a vote. It takes 60 votes to end debate to send a bill to the floor for a final floor vote. And so the Democrats are filibustering that. So if you can't bring it to the floor for a vote, you can't vote.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mind boggling to me how, it's just ridiculous.
The
I mean,
House, of course, passed it. The House passed it and then
Yeah.
promptly recessed. And a couple of House members are starting to show a little bit of Well, a little crack in the wall. Dan Crenshaw out of Texas and Marjorie Taylor Greene out of Georgia are both criticizing Speaker Johnson's tactics, and they're starting to crumble
What?
on the no, seriously, they're starting to crumble a little bit on the Republican side. But at least 3 Democrats have said that they should end the filibuster. I forget who they are. I know one is Warnock of Georgia. Who's the other one from Georgia? Because they're both Georgia senators.
Ossoff. Ossoff.
Ossoff, right?
David Ossoff. Yeah.
Both of them have said that they should end the filibuster. And I don't remember who
Well,
the
they
third
should.
one
Yeah.
is. I'm sorry, but it's still not enough. You need 60 votes to vote to close debate. And I realize they're not even on the floor debating. These are these gentlemen's filibusters, which I don't particularly care for. I think if you're going to have a filibuster, you should have an old style, Mr. Smith goes to Washington style filibuster, and not just, oh, we're filibustering, and then everybody just sits in their office and doesn't try. But
that endangers their health.
Yeah, well, yeah, we could talk about that, but I don't like the filibuster as it's presently conducted. I'm all for a filibuster. If you want to talk this thing to death, go ahead, but talk it to death. And the rule needs to be that, one, you're talking it to death. And it doesn't have to be, in my view, one person. I'm happy to let the party do it, tag team. But you have to stay on topic, none of this reading the phone book stuff. And you have to speak to the issue. And eventually they'll run out of things to say, or the American people will realize that they're completely full of crap, and they'll learn something in the process. If nothing else, they'll just learn the civics of, why is this guy talking on TV all the time? Well, it's because he's doing a filibuster. What's a filibuster? Well, that's where we can start learning things. But when all it is, oh, we're filibustering this, and the Republicans, or really any majority, simply goes, okay, and then they don't even try. They don't even publicize it. And all they do are these news conferences back and forth. Nobody but the news junkies know what's going on.
Right.
And the people who need to know what's going on are the people directly affected by it. And the specific people, as it pertains to SNAP, are the Democrat base.
Exactly. They're the ones who are being affected the most negatively by the people who they support. It doesn't make any sense.
So
It's
wouldn't
just
it be nice
evil.
if they
It's
knew that the
completely
reason
evil.
their kids are going to be hungry on November 1st is because the Democrats have refused to fund the government?
Exactly. And where are still the top 2 issues that are causing it? I mean, is it still just the health care subsidies and the health care to the illegals, correct?
It is entirely the health care subsidies. There's not a specific proposal that says, there's not a bill number or a proposal that says, let's give health care to illegals.
No.
And that's why the Democrats are able to say, oh, we're not trying to do that. Well, that's nonsense, because the Democrats are, in fact, demanding these extensions of these healthcare subsidies. And through these subsidies, illegals have been getting free healthcare.
Exactly.
So they can speak out of both sides of their mouth saying, oh, we're not advocating healthcare for illegals, free healthcare for illegals. And that's true. However, what they are advocating results indirectly in healthcare for illegals for free.
Exactly. It does. And if they would just stop that.
And, I'll tell you something else that you don't realize. In order to fund the subsidies that they're already talking about, it'd be about $340 billion. About $340 billion. But what they're sticking the government up for is $1.4 trillion.
Exactly. It's 4 times the amount.
Do what?
It's 4 times the amount. It's not even good math.
Yeah. So there's, they're not being completely honest. I mean, shocker about what they're asking for.
But you know who I'm even more angry with about not being completely honest is the so-called news media. I expect both parties to lie, or if you prefer, spin to their benefit. But when the news people, the so-called news people, are saying that there are government workers working without pay, that is a lie. Those government workers are working with delayed pay. They're gonna get paid. Nobody's asking them to work for free. They will be paid everything that they're entitled to. So they're not working for free. They're working for delayed pay. But then the worst part of the shutdown is that the people who are considered essential, they have to work and they will eventually be paid. But the government workers who are not considered essential, meaning we could live without them, they don't have to work, and they're still going to get paid. Where the hell is the logic in that?
Well, here's the part that people keep glossing over, and that's the fact that it's actually illegal for them to work without pay. So
Well, it's not illegal for the workers, the government, typical government worker. People also complain about, oh, why is Congress getting paid? Because the Constitution says they have to. Why is the president getting paid? Because the Constitution says he has to. But other government employees, they absolutely can be sent to work as essential, and they'll get paid when they get paid. There's no law that says that that's illegal.
right, I'm agreeing
Now,
with you. I'm agreeing.
involuntary servitude is illegal if that's what you're
Right.
talking about, but they're going to be
Yeah.
paid. Nobody's
Yeah,
making them work for free.
Exactly. Just as you're saying, the reason that they have to eventually get paid, it's not because there's anyone's being particularly generous or wanting to make it up to them. It's because there's a federal law that says that an employer, and the federal government counts as an employer, cannot compel you to work for free.
Well, actually, the 13th Amendment also says that.
Well,
But my problem is not with the essential employees eventually getting paid. Clearly, if they're working, they should be paid. My problem is with the non-essential workers who are not working and they're going to get paid. We should have it in this country that if you are a government employee and you don't work, then you don't get paid. Now,
Exactly.
whether we can compel them all to work and deem them all essential, I don't know the nuance of that. But we can absolutely say, if you aren't at work, you're not getting paid. Be amazed how many of those government employees will come to work and do their job on delayed pay versus no pay. But right now, they're just enjoying this, so far as of today, 29-day vacation.
Well, Mike, if we don't have people that we can characterize as non-essential workers, then how's the general public going to feel the pain of the government shutdown?
That's just it. They're not, which means we probably won't have government shutdowns because then there's nothing to fight over.
Wow, what a thought.
Exactly. When you put your country over your party, solutions actually are crystal clear.
Solutions.
Who wants solutions? That kills fundraising.
Yeah, you're killing the golden goose here, man.
Yeah.
The golden goose is a problem.
Yeah, well,
the solution neuters it.
I don't make money in my career off fundraising for politicians, okay? I want solutions. I want this country to be governed effectively and efficiently. And I understand that it takes money to run government. I understand it takes money to run a party, and it takes money to run a campaign. So I'm not one of these people who advocates public funding because all that's, private money corrupts. I'm not that at all, okay? But we need people in this country in government who are going to do things because it's the right thing to be done and not because it's going to allow them to fundraise off it. And Sky, this is a big issue with you. It's been a big issue for at least the 20-something years I've known you. And it's true. You're absolutely right. These milking bills, that's why they do a lot of what they do is strictly to raise money. They have no intent of solving the problem, because if the problem was solved, they wouldn't make any money off it anymore. They wouldn't be able to send out these crying letters about, save the whales or kill the whales or whichever side they happen to be on, right? And so I understand they aren't trying to solve the problem. But the American people, if they were informed, they would demand that the problem be solved. And the reason they're not informed is because the so-called news media is nothing but so-called journalists who are really activists posing as journalists, and it's nothing but propaganda press. And unfortunately, the majority of that propaganda is to the Democrat favor. Look, there's propaganda on the right-hand side too. Okay?
Right, there is.
And I don't like either side when they propagandize. But let's be honest, the so-called mainstream media, that is the left media that supports the Democrats.
Well, keep this in mind. So you're absolutely correct. I don't disagree with a word you said. But the people you're talking about are the frontline reporters and journalists and editors. The people that make the decision to hire those people and to keep those people are the people who have common cause with the fundraisers, because they have to have something controversial and attention-getting to bring to their air in order so they can sell advertising. So
exactly.
They have common cause with these fundraisers. The fundraisers need to say something controversial to keep people donating money, and they need for the media to agree with them so that it validates the things that they're saying.
Right, because the majority of the fundraisers are the business owners who do the advertising. And so you have a strong correlation there between the guys who donate the money to the campaigns are same ones who donate the money, and I guess in their way of good donating money to the media. And so, I mean, they're more or less giving the media money to go ahead and advertise their product, and they're giving the campaigns money to go ahead and put their products into law. And so, I
Yeah, I
mean, basically,
understand
there's
that.
a lot of mirroring there.
I understand that, but we have enough problems in this country that if
Oh,
we
we
could
do.
solve a few, we'd still have enough problems to give people a
Oh, yeah.
reason to tune into the media or to buy the newspaper or click on the website or whatever.
I agree.
So we're never going to solve all the problems. I completely understand. Look, I've been in
Yeah.
media since 1980. I completely
Oh, yeah.
understand that if it was, well, good evening, welcome to the news. There's nothing wrong in America today. Everything's great. Well, everybody's going to flip to another channel because what's the
Exactly.
point of that? You want the controversy, I get that, but we have enough problems that even if we solve the big ones, we will still have enough controversial issues to cover. And it is doing a disservice to the American
Oh, it
people and
is.
therefore the country. And that
Especially
I
their
agree
bothers
with
me
coverage,
greatly.
especially
again.
especially their go ahead.
Again, I agree with every word that you just said. The problem is that they already know how to make money off of this issue. And if they solve this issue, they've got to learn how to make money off of another issue. And they got to find one that the public is going to respond to as well as they were responding to this one. So again, I'm not saying that I'm saying you're completely right, but the machine is built in a way that it lends itself, to just continue beating the same dead horse. I couldn't be more shocked today to see Bill Gates admitting that climate change probably isn't going to kill humanity. Really, it's not that big of an issue. What we really need to do is start focusing on poverty. And I'm like, are you saying that
Finally.
because? But are you saying that because of all the reports that are coming out now that are showing all of the consensus climate models and all the big climate models that predicted that we'd be like 5 degrees hotter than we are right now, and they're just not coming true?
Well, they've not come
So
true
Sadly.
for decades. Remember, Al Gore said in the 90s that the Arctic was going to be ice free by 2012.
Right.
yeah, no,
Not
yep,
yet.
I definitely remember that.
So real quick, to switch topics here, we got this is probably our last show here before the big election in New York City, which I guess the way New York goes, America goes, and hopefully not. But we got this mayor's race going on up there, and do y'all think Madani, whatever his name is going to pull it out?
Probably.
Well,
That's
I don't always
sad.
believe the polling data, but the polling data is pretty much in his favor. If this was even close to the margin of error, I might say, yeah, people are going to come to their senses by election day. But the margin, it's pretty substantial. I mean, it's big double digits. I don't see any way he loses. And God help New York, God help America if that were to
God
happen.
help them.
Or
Oh
actually,
no, no, no,
excuse
no.
me, let me change what I just said, because that might be illegal soon, and this is going to be on the internet for a while. Allah help New York if that should happen, and Allah bless America.
I'm completely with you, Mike. But I
Exactly.
think that I think that New York deserves what they get. And frankly, they're talking about Trump withholding money if Mandami gets there. They're criticizing Trump for that. I think Trump's going to need that money to bail New York out after Mandami's
Yeah, he
done with it.
will. He will. I mean, it's going to take that much to bail him out because he is going to screw it up so bad. I mean, so bad. It's not even funny. I have no idea what. I mean, I do know that over half the voters, or right around half the voters for New York, are not even from New York. I mean, they're foreigners or they're from other countries, and they're all put there in Manhattan Island and Brooklyn, and all the different boroughs and everything. And so it's just, I mean, I feel bad for the people over there. I will say it's going to probably increase a big flood of people to Florida and Tennessee and Texas, probably. We'll get a lot of New Yorkers down here, moving down here, most likely, as a result of the election.
Well, we'll get refugees. What we had was ideological refugees before. Now we're going
Right.
to have people who are just broke and can't afford to live there. And why do we want that?
Yeah, the ideological refugees are welcome because they help, but the economic refugees, they are a drain.
Oh God.
But, I mean, they're not going to be able to survive what he's doing because, I mean, there's no way to pay for universal health care or free buses or free taxis and everything free. I mean, without raising the taxes on everything.
No, actually, it's real easy to find all that stuff. All you have to do is tax the billionaires. That's why we have
Yeah.
economic
You-
inequality in this country. If we would just tax the billionaires and get them to
Well,
pay
yeah.
their fair share, why,
It'd
we'll
be
all
so
be
easy.
living the high life.
Exactly.
Yes, if they
Please
stay
note the
living
obvious
there.
sarcasm in that.
What's sarcasm? No sarcasm there.
Hey, speaking of, and this isn't sarcasm, this just is an outright lie. You heard, of course, about him complaining about how the biggest tragedy of the 9/11 attack was that his aunt couldn't walk through New York wearing her hijab afterwards. You hear about that?
Yes.
And
Really?
as it turns
Yes.
out, his aunt was living in Tanzania at the time, and although she is a Muslim, she doesn't wear a hijab. So just a complete lie. And yet, I wonder how many New York voters know that that
Because the
happened.
media, I'm sure the media won't tell them.
Many. That
The
many.
propaganda machine in New York City will not tell them about any of it. That's just the reality of it.
But
Real quick,
even if they did, they don't want to hear it. So what good is it to need to tell?
yeah, I know. Well, I think the last topic I think we're going to talk about tonight is Trump's Asia tour. I guess he's going to be meeting with Xi Jinping, I think, tomorrow. He met with
Yes,
Japan
tomorrow
and
in South
Korea.
Korea.
Right. I think he met with Japan today. I think they're going to invest $10 billion in manufacturing over here, I think for automobiles or some other products in America. And I think he's working on that. Now, he's doing a lot of work here with the Congress being shut down and Senate being shut down and everything else. He still keeps on, being very presidential. He's doing a great job, I think, with the foreign affairs and doing a very bang up job with all of that.
Yeah, we got trade deals with Malaysia, with Thailand, with Japan. Cambodia and Thailand have signed a peace treaty. I mean, Donald Trump is just winning after, win after win after win on this trip.
Well, he did promise us that we would get tired of winning. And I'm not
Exactly.
tired yet, but I'm looking forward to being tired of that.
And I would say that the reason most Americans are not tired of all that winning is because most Americans aren't even aware that it's happened because the fake news doesn't report it. Fake news does not have to be false to
Fake
be
news
fake.
everywhere.
Fake news is primarily done through the editorial decisions of what to cover and what not to cover. And Donald
Exactly.
Trump's successes, specifically in Asia, I mean, we could talk about others as well, but on this topic, specifically in Asia, they're not being talked about. And so the American people don't even know, by and large. I mean, a
Exactly.
handful do, but I bet it's less than 25%.
Well, most of the news about his successes are being left on the cutting room floor, as they put it. I mean,
Exactly.
basically, they're editing it all out and they're just putting any kind of nefarious or bad news or any kind of side step he might have made or any sarcasm or sneer or childish remark that they kind of could have edited together to say he did. But that's it. I mean, all they do is poke at him like a bear, and they don't give a damn about anything he's doing to actually make America great.
Yeah, and one of the things long term that's going to be most beneficial, perhaps, is that rare earth mineral deals were signed with Malaysia,
Exactly.
Thailand, and Japan. And with China cutting us off on rare earth minerals, if we've got this deal, and we had one just, month and a half ago with Ukraine, actually. So we're trying to source some rare earth minerals from countries other than China. China's had a monopoly. They control 90 something percent of the global trade on rare earth minerals, but Donald Trump's trying to obtain them elsewhere and try to lessen our and hopefully other nations' reliance upon China, which will weaken China's economic power in terms of leverage, but also hopefully just in terms of their overall economy, because China does pose the biggest threat to the West, mostly the United States, but to all of the West. And frankly, if we want to be completely honest, through their Belt and Road Initiative, China poses the biggest threat to the entire planet, really,
They do,
including the Chinese people themselves, frankly.
yeah. They don't really care about the Chinese people too much.
No, they don't.
Yeah, well, nobody has killed more Chinese people than China.
Exactly. And the whole fact that the people, and once again, like Mike said and Scott said, the fake news media just will not talk about it. I mean, I guess China is buying the news media or owns the news media or something, because the reality here, I mean, none of the truth ever gets out, period.
Yeah, I don't think that China is buying them. I don't think that the news media needs to be told to censor this stuff. The problem is that most of these editors and most of these reporters in the newsrooms are hardcore lefties. They hate Donald Trump, and they're simply not going to they just choose not to report anything good about the president. And
Well, it's been
so
like
they
this for
just
20
remain silent on
years.
it.
It's been
They
like
don't
this
have
for
to be
20 some odd
told to
years.
do it.
I mean, this is way before Trump. I mean, this is back when W was president. I mean,
I understand.
and Clinton, I mean, Scott and I talked about this before about Clinton selling, secrets to the Chinese when he was a president and everything for fundraising, political fundraising and all that stuff. I mean, it goes a long ways back.
Right.
And
It's not just anti-Trump, it's anti-Republican because they're hardcore lefties. It's just that Trump happens to be the person in office right now. But you're correct. They hated George W. Bush. They hated George H.W. Bush. They hated Ronald Reagan. I mean, the media has been
anti-American.
hard left for a half a century now. And
I
really
think it's
beyond that. You could
I think
argue
it's
beyond that.
anti-American. I think it's
Well,
anti-American, not
well,
anti-Republican.
if you are hard left, you are anti-American.
Mhm. I agree with that. I agree with
agree.
that statement.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But you guys got anything else you want to throw in tonight?
Well, let's end with a quick prediction. How many more days? No, seriously, how many more? And I'm not going to be right. I mean, I don't know. This is just a fun game. How many? No money's on the line. How many more days before the government reopens? We're at day 29 right now.
Well, 32 days is a record, and so I
No, I
think
thought it was
we're
35 was a record. I thought it was 35,
either way.
I think
we'll
I
go
think
to
they're
40.
gonna I think they're gonna open on Tuesday.
which
Think
would
so?
be the
Fourth,
fourth. Okay, I was
Fourth.
looking for a calendar. All right.
November 4th. You think so? Why do you say that?
Well, I mean, you know, pressure is mounting. They they're actually still coming up with contingency plans to save SNAP. So I think that they might somehow get that in under the wire because it's going to be bad for the Democrats too, and they know it.
Well, yeah.
But because if they fail to protect SNAP, it doesn't matter why they fail. They can point the finger at whoever they want to. Their voters are just gonna know that they didn't get their check on time.
Our politics are local.
Right, and so that's why I think that that they'll be able to go over the weekend, and they may be able to survive. The beginning of as soon as they come out of the weekend and get into the fresh news cycle on Monday and are able to take the temperature. I think they're not going to. I don't know who's going to break, but someone's going to break Tuesday.
Well, it needs to be the Democrats who break, especially if the SNAP is the issue. If the Republicans cave at all on SNAP, and I know it was an effort of, let's just fund SNAP. We'll worry about the rest of it later. Absolutely not. We're going to fund it all, or we're going to fund none of it. Because the Democrats are the ones who will take the blame. And politically, and again, I realized earlier in this podcast, I was saying that I don't do things for partisan reasons. I do things because it benefits the country, or I advocate things that benefit the country and not for party purposes. But let's be honest. There's partisan strategy going on here by those in power.
There is.
And the reality is that the Democrats will take the blame for the SNAP benefits not being there. And the people receiving the SNAP benefits, most of them already hate the Republicans. So the Republicans have nothing to lose.
Well, I actually read an article, and I had a good question I was going to ask you guys. Why is Congress controlling SNAP? How come it's not already pre-funded as an essential need, kind of like VA benefits or Social Security is, or stuff like that?
Everything has to be appropriated. And of course, keep in mind, we haven't had a budget in decades. It's just been continuing resolutions. But you still have to fund it. I mean, nothing is perpetual.
Well, I understand that. One thing is that Social Security is not being stopped from the government shutdown. VA disability benefits are not being stopped because they're already prepaid. And so how come SNAP can be prepaid in the same type of manner where it's not affected by people being assholes in D.C.?
Because SNAP is funded out of general revenue.
Yeah, exactly.
I know that.
Social Security is not funded out of general revenue. Social Security is funded out of a deduction from your check. So it goes into a trust fund. It's not really a trust fund, but it is at least pre-funded, albeit inadequately.
Right.
But and then the VA benefits. I mean, they just have that money pushed forward. But SNAP is not a true entitlement. All right, what you're talking about are entitlements. All right. And SNAP's not a true entitlement. It's a government program that was supposed to be temporary a long time ago.
That's true.
But government programs, a temporary government program is temporary until the government ends.
It is, which will never happen. So
so let's get back to the original question. Scott says Tuesday.
I say Tuesday.
Greg,
I agree with Scott. I don't think they're going to be able to take the heat. I think probably Monday night at midnight. Probably be a late night meeting after they get all the headlines of people going hungry and people starving and dying in the streets and everything else after having 7 hours of no food.
Right. So you both say the government reopens November 4th. I'm going to go with Price is Right rules and say November 5th. And so that way, any day after the 4th, I win. Although I do think, for the record, I do think it will be a lot longer. I think we're going to set a new record for the longest government shutdown. I don't know when it will finally reopen, but it'll break the 35-day record. That's my prediction.
Well, I have far more confidence in their ineptitude.
Well, I'm just actually confused by what Mike said earlier. Is how come Marjorie Taylor Greene and who's the other one?
Dan
The other
Crenshaw out of
Republican,
Texas.
Dan Crenshaw.
Dan
Why would they be
Crenshaw.
Why would they be crumbling at all whenever Republicans are not doing a damn thing wrong here?
Well, to be fair, Marjorie Taylor Greene's objection it isn't that the shutdown's occurring; it's that the shutdown's occurring and they're not leveraging it well enough. Johnson sent them all back to their home districts so that they couldn't do anything at the drop of a hat if they needed to, and deliberately. Marjorie Taylor Greene thinks that thinks she would be more effective if the media had better access to her in the Capitol, not in her district.
Well, and Crenshaw did say that the biggest problem that he has, and it's not the only problem, but the biggest problem he has is that they're on recess, and he thinks they should be in session even if there's not much for them to do.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think it's a much better strategy.
And Crenshaw wasn't advocating that the Republicans cave. He was just saying that he didn't like Speaker Johnson's strategy, and that a big part of that was he thinks they should be in Washington in session doing God knows what, because they've already voted for the continuing resolution. So the government shutdown, that's 100% right now in the hands of the Senate. The House can't do anything with it.
I think the House is already in session. The judiciary guys are still doing their indictments and everything else and all that.
Yeah, but you don't have to be in session to have committee meetings.
Pro forma sessions. I mean, real sessions.
Yeah.
And for all the people out there who don't know how government works, it's a mess.
It is a mess.
Very
well,
true.
you guys, thank you. It's been a great show here tonight, and please, everybody watching, remember to subscribe to us. We picked up 75 subscribers on YouTube in the last 3 days, so that's pretty cool. Please follow us on YouTube and again on Rumble, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, or as Scott said, any platform you like.
Yeah, any platform you like, go check it out. We're probably there.
Exactly. And y'all have a good evening.
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.